Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. And today I've got the amazing Rory with us. Hi, Rory, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on this.
Thank you so much for coming along today, sharing your story, your views, and your vision for the music industry. We really appreciate your time. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Rory. I'm a musician and producer and songwriter from Toronto, Canada. I'm based in Toronto, IE.
I love Canada.
Yeah, yeah. It's I've been playing instruments pretty much my whole life. When I was 3, I got a harmonica, and about a year later, I started piano lessons, and I've been sort of performing since I was like 6. Since then, and off and on.
That's really, really interesting. And did you find that your love for music from a young age has kind of instilled that love for music and creativity in your soul that you have to continue being creative?
Yeah, I can't not. Sometimes I can't sleep because there's music in my head. And
I totally understand that. And the other thing I was going to say to you, Rory, is how long have you actually been in the music industry for, and how did you get into it?
well, that's the thing is, when I was like 6, I was doing this school thing. This guy, Jack Grunski, whatever, he's like he's a musician himself, obviously, but I played with him at a school thing. And then a year later, I did this festival. I think it
Yeah.
was like Stars and Car, like a local thing. And so I guess I've been in it since then. And, I've been performing at various galas and clubs since then. And, I went to Berklee.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I had the mission I went there to learn to produce, learn production and be able to produce myself so that I could play all the instruments on records. And I ended that career with putting out my first album.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that was 20, yeah, May of 23 was when I did that.
Well, congratulations in completing the course, Rory. And could you tell us more about the instruments that you do in the production and stuff like that? How did you kind of get into that? What's been your interest, your hobbies, and what brought you to the love of production and
Well,
instruments?
yeah, well, I play a lot of different instruments like guitar, drums, and bass, harmonica, piano, trumpet, harmonica. Yeah,
Wow.
I like to just play around with stuff. If you give me an instrument a bit of time, I'll
You'll learn how
try to.
to.
But the production thing was because I'm blind. So when I was little, I used to think like I wish I could write music. I want to show people how to like I want to record a song, but I how do I tell them what to play? But then I just figured, well, I can just play it. I know how to play everything. It's in my head. Why don't I can't tell them how it feels, so why don't I just do it? And then I tried to learn production. I talked about this in a different interview where I had a Mac. I got a Mac around 2013 or something like that, and GarageBand is preloaded on all Macs, but when you're blind, you can't just go to YouTube and go, how do I use GarageBand? Because everyone's like, oh, you got to click the red icon and you will expand your tracks. It's like,
Yeah.
I can't see that.
Yes.
But then
Wow.
yeah, there was all these forums of blind people talking about production that I discovered, and it was like, well, Pro Tools works with screen readers, Reaper works. You got to eat the scripts. And then I went to Berkeley, and there was Professor Chi Kim there, who's also blind as well, and who was an alumni who started this lab for blind students. So I learned everything. Got me started with Pro Tools, and later
Wow.
things like Reaper and Logic, and so I just really went from there. I was off.
How inspiring is that? Like that has so many challenges built into it, but you've overcome those, Rory. How inspirational and amazing is that to do? Like, I couldn't imagine what you've had to go through to get to where you are today. And thank you so much for sharing that. That is super empowering to so many different people. Like, both my parents are deaf, so I totally
Oh
understand
yeah,
like for people that are deaf or blind, and I really have a lot of compassion and understanding. But I would like to see the music industry become more inclusive for blind and deaf people, actually, because I think a lot of disabled people are forgotten about in the music industry. And it's not because they can't understand or they can't listen to music. It's there's a different format for it. And people need to understand that there's feeling, there's emotion, and all of those things still exist for everybody because we're human beings, you
I'd
know.
also, I also think it'd be great if people would, there are so few disabled people in the industry. Then why are we always comparing? Everyone compares me to Stevie Wonder or Jeff Healey. It's like I don't. If you listen to Talking Book and then you listen to my record, they're nothing alike.
Yeah.
It's
You're
like
That's
Stevie
amazing.
Wonder's awesome. Whenever I sit down on a synth, I play Superstition, but that's not, that's just because the song's good. Everyone's like, eh. I think we should look at the music more than the physical limitations you may or may not have that
So do you
cause you
just
to do it
by
differently.
ear? So do you literally learn by ear? For example, because people that have lost a sense have additional senses in the other senses that we have, right? So, for example, you might not be able to see, but does that mean your sound is more enhanced and you're more in tune with what you hear rather than what you have to see?
It's definitely more focused on, like, I do have perfect pitch, which isn't blind related. Obviously, there half of Berklee seem to have it, but like that definitely helps because in school when I was playing trumpet in high school and I had to do all these playing tests, I would just get them to record. The teacher would record the little exercise and I would memorize it
Right.
and then play it. Like, so, yeah, it does help having a good ear. And I would also sit in band and listen to the guy next to me. So I would learn it through
Okay.
practice.
Yeah. And
No
Sam,
one would know that I didn't know what I was doing.
that's super cool. That's super talented as well. That's an additional talent that you actually have, is being able to hear uniquely and specifically what you want to hear and how you're going to play that across and how that comes across to others, I think is a real benefit actually.
I certainly think I would like to see people, everyone, blind or not, use the ear a bit more because they could benefit, learning a song on in a jam or whatever. You're not going to have the notation or a chart lead sheet in front of you. Like, just listen. It's all about that anyway.
It
Same
is.
with production. Everyone's looking at the meter. Well, I see the two lines. It's out of phase. It's like, forget about the screen. Does it sound like you want it to sound?
That's the most important.
Stop looking at the meters. As Andrew Sheps would say, it only matters what comes out of the speakers. Like,
Right. That's totally right, actually, Rory. I really agree with what you're saying there. And you said you went to Berklee and you did your education there. Have you always done music from a very young age? Has it always been something you've been drawn to? Or is it something you've kind of got yourself into as you've evolved?
oh yeah, it's all I ever wanted. It was my dream from a young age to. I just wanted to be a musician. I've done sports and things too, but that was like hobbies to me. But music was always like the main drive, I guess.
And why was it music? What was that main drive that kind of propelled you to say, do you know what, I need to do music. Music's my thing. What was that? What was that?
Well, to be honest, I don't know exactly. I think probably getting a harmonica was probably fun as a little kid, but I think and playing along to songs. But I think a big thing for me is always the crowd. I like performing. I love performing, and the bigger the crowd, I always say this is kind of as a joke. It's kind of like a drug. The bigger the crowd, the more euphoric you feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't like. I have been performing from a very young age. I think that definitely it sort of instilled that in me. Like, oh, this is fun. I should do this forever. Like,
And can you feel that emotion as well? Like literally when you're on the stage, can you feel that love, that empowerment, that understanding, that relatability? Can you feel that?
yeah, it sort of it's like an adrenaline rush almost. And I used to get nervous as a kid, but then once I would get out there, it's like it goes away, and it's hey, this is fun.
I get nervous all the time, don't worry about it. And I was going to say to you as well, like being obviously blind or being in the music industry, that comes with a lot of challenges and barriers. So, Rory, to be where you are today, how many challenges and barriers have you had to overcome and kind of work out how does this work for me? How's that kind of navigated your story and your successes in the music industry?
Well, it's more like trying to prove to people that blind or not, I am still a musician, and they should look past
Yeah,
the way I play guitar, my left hand over the top of it rather than under
yeah,
a lot of the time, which Jeff Healy did that too, and everyone relates me to him. But like, I'm not playing the same guitar or anything like that he did. So I'm not. I'm just trying to be so I'm just a musician.
yeah.
I sort of like to see it as secondary, but some people, it's like looking at me through a fence or something. They always see they can't get past, they can't get over the wall that and realize that I'm just the same as it's the blindest part is just a small hindrance that happens to be the case. But and I would, I think that's the same for any
But your talent
minority
speaks
group.
for itself. Honestly, Rory, your talent speaks for itself. And I understand what you're saying about other minority groups, but some of us don't have the challenges that you've had to overcome and face? And I know we've all got our own challenges and we've all got our own issues. You know, me, myself, being a trans woman, a multiracial trans woman, I find it very difficult sometimes to navigate the industry because I'm underrepresented and I'm not understood fully.
Yeah.
So I think,
I
you know,
de yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be more awareness in terms of the production side of things for blind people, because that was always it's always a gamble when you're using plugins and things like that, whether it's going to be accessible, whether you can actually use it, and that can be problematic. Like Melodyne,
yeah,
tuning vocals to standard. For the longest time, we couldn't use it at all, and it's actually kind of still up in the air because there's you got to use it in certain environments to actually make it work.
is there
That's
any
one thing.
is there any tools that can kind of support you and help you with the learning, the navigation, the, you know, the techniques that you need to know?
Yeah,
Um,
there's uh well, one example, Cheek and Professor Berklee made these scripts for Pro Tools called Flow Tools that make it it's slightly faster to use with the voiceover screen reader, on the Mac, and it sort of puts us on more of an even playing field, because instead of having to navigate to the arm track button in each track, you can just double tap the R key or whatever. It sort of speeds up things like that. And there are other things like Reaper has scripts, so there are workaround. It is good that other blind people in the industry help to
it's good.
within, if there's not a way to do it, we find our own sort of workaround to make things work.
I think that's really, really important because I've done a few talks and topics around, you know, inclusion for blind and deaf people. And I think, you know, there's sometimes the braille aspect and there's other ways of learning. So do you find hearing something? So for example, I've got dyslexia. So when I'm writing, I have to have something read it back to me, because when I'm writing it, I can't actually tell if it's right or wrong until I've heard it back. Do you find the same kind of thing, that you have to hear stuff to kind of take that in and figure out how it works?
Yeah, I never got braille music, for example. That always frustrated me,
Okay.
because I always figured, well, why can't I just hear it
Yes.
and
Yeah.
memorize it? I don't really, it's the same thing ultimately. The
Yes.
ultimate goal is playing something.
I really understand that actually. And it's really nice that you can use your ear to tune your kind of skill set into how you want it, because I think that's amazing. That's beautiful. And not many people can really do that. You know, some of these most talented professional producers couldn't do that if they tried, you know. So I think that's absolutely amazing. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, and how's that impacted you on your success, your career, on your progression? Has that had any hindrances, or has that stopped you in your tracks at any time, or has it been quite smooth sailing?
The learning by ear thing.
You know, with the learning, with the production, with the success, with
Oh
being
yeah,
specialized, has that helped?
it helps. And also it's frustrating at times because I have to like using extra scripts for things like Pro Tools and stuff. I have to explain to people if I'm using someone else's rig. It's like, this is going to take me longer than normal because I have to do it. You don't have the scripts I have, and I don't want to make you install them. Or sometimes I have to ask people, and some people are like, "Well, what is that? Like, what is, you know?"
Fair enough. I think that's
But
quite
it's
reasonable.
also raises awareness, and some people are very excited about it. Like, the people see me use my setup. Well, now I use Ableton, but I was at Berklee using Pro Tools, and it was like, um, that's cool that you can do that. Like, why is it not built in? And.
Right. Okay. So you kind of figure it all out and you kind of go step by step and you kind of explore it. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, a little bit. Like, I've tried different ones. Certain There's like three different ways to do things in each DAW. So, in the case of Pro Tools with the Flow Tool scripts,
Yes.
if someone doesn't have it on their machine, I have to just sort of keep in the back of my mind other ways to accomplish the same goals that I would otherwise rely on
Yeah.
the scripts for. And actually, it's a good thing now that Ableton has been more aware of things and made Live 12 accessible out of the box, because there's no extra requirements now.
So pleased to hear that. And how do you find it navigating studios when you're asked to go into a studio or doing studio sessions? Do you generally do that from home, or do you
Yeah,
actually?
Nowadays I mostly record myself, so it's my bedroom setup, and I got everything mic'd and everything. But at Berklee, when I was doing more studio stuff, thankfully I could do like I was doing a lot of production classes, and they were accommodating enough for like the recording and mixing stuff I could do with my own setup. But they also had the Flow Tool scripts on some of the computers for people who wanted to use their setup, but I never bothered because I knew
You're
my stuff. And whenever I was in studio sessions, I was always just playing. So I would just hang out until it was time to record. And then I'd go in the live room and, do my thing and leave. But
That's amazing. And what's your kind of thoughts and feelings around equality, diversity, inclusion at the moment in the music industry? Do you think we're doing enough? Do you think we could do more? Do you think there's enough blind people, disabled people, trans, neurodiverse? Do you think we're representing the communities we should be, or do you still think we've got a long way to go?
I think we've got a bit of a ways to go. I definitely think there's better than we were, but people are a little, I think people like to, um, the thing I said before about not getting past but like at the end of the day, we're all making music, and I think people should be accepting of the different requirements to do that, like the accessibility for screen readers and whatever else anyone needs. And, that shouldn't be something that's unknown to anyone who doesn't have those disabilities. It should be kind of standard practice to have things work, and, not to be overly like some of us are just trying to do our thing and not
You just be,
be,
you can't be anyone else but yourself, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's like just be ourselves. And
Yeah. And just do the best you can, because I'm pretty sure you've got some amazing tracks and you could do some great stuff, right? You're just as good as anyone else. And it's all in your mind as well. It's about positive thinking and believing in yourself and having that compassion and understanding for others too. And just giving people a chance, I think is really, really important. Because a
so
lot of
yeah,
them have a lot of ego in the music industry. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think
yeah, there's a lot of ego, and some people gotta
yeah,
put that away. It's like
we don't need
same
that.
with
We've got a
same
long
with
way.
the acting industry. I did a bit of that, and it's surprising to me that there's not more of blind people or disabled people in general in roles that are actually disabled people, characters with disabilities, or whatever. It's like, um, why shouldn't there be
I
the
find
realism of someone?
I find that quite similar to the trans community. I see a lot of people saying that, oh, yes, I'm a trans person, or we're part of the trans community, but they're actually not. And I'm just like, why can't we just have people in the community be and
Yeah,
represent the communities in which we're from? Because that's true, that's authentic, and it
there's
resonates.
plenty of people out there that are part of that, and
Yeah,
you just got to look a bit harder, for the music too. It's it's
100%.
easy
And I'm
it's easy
always
to overlook,
And I
but
always
shouldn't be.
support represented disadvantaged communities. I think that's a really massive point that we all should be doing as well, is understanding and having more compassion, having more time to give other people a platform and amplify the voices of others. Because it's not just about one community, it's about us all living together collectively in harmony, right?
Yeah, and some people are impatient. I remember a couple of years back, people would be impatient about because everyone uses their own DAW and stuff in production world, and it's like I couldn't use Ableton Live at the time, and some people will be like, "Oh, well, can we collaborate? Like, why can't you use it?" I'm like, it's not accessible. Well, not to newcomers. No, I mean it's not screen reader accessible. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I'm like, well, yeah, it's a thing.
This is the thing, I think it's education too, isn't it? I think part of it is to do with education and a lack of understanding. So
Yeah, lack of awareness.
yeah, so if we go to the next question, which is, what would you like to see improve in the next couple of years, especially when we're looking at specifically, say, people that are finding it difficult to access the music industry because of sight? What could we do to improve the industry? What could we do to make it easier, more inclusive, and more representative?
I think accessibility across the board needs to be standardized, and I think it's slowly, supposedly getting there. Like for plug, I know I talk a lot about production, but that's sort of the thing I am mainly doing. But like the plugin framework, like Juice or whatever, is becoming accessible, and that's a big thing for blind people anyway. I can't speak for other disabilities. I'm sure there are things that also need to be worked out. I think in general, though, yeah, it should be across the board. There should be more awareness and like standardization for plugin companies and everything else. And I know this isn't necessarily about disabilities and whatever, but streaming services in general should deliver equal pay per stream to all the artists because the smaller ones really are taking a hit, and that shouldn't be the case.
I think that's a great point you make there. And also, when we're looking at the talent pipeline, what else could we do to ensure that more blind people or more people that are deaf or disabled or neurodivergent are able to access and learn and be part of an industry, you know, because I think it's all to do with community and culture and awareness and education. But what can we do as an industry to make sure that we are supporting people from these, you know, underrepresented or disadvantaged communities to make sure that they can thrive? Because I think that's really important. It's giving people that autonomy to be able to do things themselves.
Yeah, I think we should encourage the individuality of each person's music and you know, just like, you know, it's accept the fact that we're all here for the same goal to make music and not there should be the ego is the main thing. People, you know,
Yeah.
sound like the higher up people in the industry want a certain sound, and it's like, well, it should be a trend doesn't necessarily have to be the required standard for, you know, not everyone has the gear or the ability to the funding to get
Exactly.
into well-treated rooms with all the gear and everything else. And not
So,
everyone can use it for various reasons.
yeah.
So
Excellent. And do you think kind of age and cultural differences also have an impact on the equality and diversity that we can achieve in the music industry at this current moment in time? Do you think obviously
yeah,
are the
I
less
think
empowered and supportive?
age and cultural difference and also geography, world geography. Everyone always pushes Nashville and LA and
Yeah.
I think London, but it's like, you know, not everyone lives there or wants to live. Like I'm
Right.
in Toronto and it's hard to I haven't met I don't know a ton of musicians from everyone from Berklee was in the States or other places, so it's hard to, you know, connect. And I think instead of pushing the major hubs, I think there should be more of a wider effort to sort of get things going everywhere. And um, well, yeah, I think that's just it. Is more maybe
Oh,
people will end up in the major hubs, and maybe they won't, but they should be able to, I guess, thrive wherever they want to be, wherever they are.
right.
Should be the ability for everyone to start out and have some kind of musical success in wherever they're at.
Well, I actually do a lot of online like networking and community events, and I've got a couple of them that are actually based in Canada for the Department for International Trade. I will send you those links later, Rory, because I think they might help you. And it's also about networking and knowing other people and also making sure you're part of a community, because I think that's really important too. So how have you found the musical community? Obviously, being from a disadvantaged background, have you found it supportive, you know, nurturing? Has it been supportive and helped you in your mental health and everything else?
Yeah, I think it's overall been good. I mean, everywhere you go, there's going to be a couple of people that are
Yeah.
not the night, but you know, it's been good. You know, people love to jam and people love to. I haven't found it. I haven't found a ton of backlash or anything. It's more compared to other people, like gets a bit old sometimes. You know, yeah, I'm like Jeff Healey or I'm like Stevie Wonder, but I don't like I don't I want to be myself.
Yeah, I understand that. You don't want to be classed as somebody else or labeled as somebody else. You're
I,
just you.
I don't want to be seen as just another blind musician. I don't want the blind thing to be in front of everything. I want
You want your
it,
talent
yeah,
self.
yeah,
I totally understand that. And I think that's something that I even strive for now is sometimes I think, am I being chosen because I'm this person or because I'm this type, or am I being chosen because of my talents, my uniqueness, and what I bring to the table? And I think
yeah. Are
with
they looking for a tragic story or are they looking for actual like musicianship? It's like sometimes it's
but
hard to know.
and I think some of us struggle with that, especially when we come from these disadvantaged or underrepresented groups, is okay, are we being chosen for this or are we being chosen for that? And I think sometimes it's just going with the flow, but it's also believing in yourself and knowing that you have the confidence and the quality to get you to those next steps.
Yeah, knowing that you have something that maybe not everyone else has musically, or knowing that you're at least proud of your ability or creations enough to
Exactly.
convince people and get people on board.
And I also think as well, Rory, is sometimes, you know, when you go to some of these darkest places, some of the places that are, are very difficult. I think that's where a lot of this magic is born. It's where a lot of this creativity and the creations and the inspiration comes from. Did you find the same thing?
That going to like darker places, sorry, like
Sometimes when you face difficult challenges or you've been through some hard things in life, do you find that that gives you that additional inspiration and that creativity that you can tap into that not many other people could because of
I
what you
think more often than not, I think it's just a matter of it's taught me that if it's a good song, it doesn't matter. Like you can use what you have, and as long as you have fun doing it, no one's gonna care how you got there.
yes, that's
You know,
really
like Mac DeMarco recorded his few albums on like a 4 track, and they're still really cool, even though they sound really sketchy because the songs are good, and no one cares ultimately about the process. And I think that's the same. Like I recorded in a Berklee dorm room with a 57, and it's like I don't I don't care. For a
well,
while, that was
it sounds good.
yeah.
It sounds good, that's what matters, right?
And also, if it sounds like how you wanted it, if you envisioned it, if you get like 90% of the way to how you envision it in your head, there's obviously going to be a couple different. Embrace the imperfections too, but there are going to be a couple imperfections from your head to the computer, or I guess to tape or whatever you want to say. So, but at least if you get the main picture across, then it won't matter, and some things can be overlooked and should be overlooked. Like, so yeah, I think
None of us are perfect, are we? We wish
yeah.
we were, right? I
And that's
totally
one thing I hope too. You mentioned about the future changing. I hope people will accept that, you know, music doesn't have to be perfect. And sometimes it's about capturing the performance, not creating it and
yes.
quantizing everything and pitch correcting. Yeah, accept that there's the humanity of it shouldn't be taken out just because it's mathematically imperfect.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And do you think sound and vibration has a massive part to play? Like I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of research, and I love music so much, and I've been doing a lot of deep diving in myself and understanding about music and life. And do you think vibration and frequency has a massive part to do with songs and the way they sound and how they come out?
Yeah, I think subconsciously too. Like unless you're an engineer, you won't understand probably what people won't care or understand what the frequencies are, but they are there, I think.
Yeah.
And some will make or break I think it also depends on the song though, what the emotional implication of the song is, what the artist wants the listeners to feel. They may not necessarily want them to know the whole story behind the song, but they want them to invoke a certain emotion. And I think the vibrations are part of it. And I think when you EQ something, that's sort of helping to bring out or bring back unwanted vibrations as well, if that makes sense.
It invokes emotion, and like you were saying, and brings back memories or invokes memories. And I think that's a really important part of it too, isn't it? It's about
Well,
belonging
yeah.
to something.
Well, that's the thing is that music is the ultimate goal of it is to bring people together and make them feel a certain thing, or remember a certain thing, or
100%.
relate in a certain way. And I wouldn't say people forget about that sometimes, but I think they maybe don't think about it. And, you can, music sort of transcends all that sort of
Yeah,
language barriers and everything else. If you
that's
could
the one.
argue,
It's a universal language, but people can understand it even if they don't understand the language. Do you know what I mean? And music's a really powerful tool in
yeah,
the right
I
ways.
played with some people and we never spoke a word. We couldn't, you just, you play. You don't have to,
Yes.
if there's instruments in your hands, it's sort of,
It just comes out
yeah.
effortlessly. Yeah, I love that. And this has been really inspiring. I love talking to you, Rory, and thank you for sharing some of your wisdom with us. Like, obviously, being in the music industry, it's a high pressure environment. There's a lot of stuff going on all the time. Do you think that that's impacted you, the way you feel, and your mental health?
A little bit. I think it's a bit I wouldn't say completely disheartening because I'm still doing my thing, but it's a bit sometimes to see that like some people haven't done as much, some people haven't been around as long, but they have so much funding behind them that they can their first song is a hit. But then on the other side of the coin, they may not last as longer because they have a quick rise up, so they fall quicker too. But it's sort of like I remember at Berklee, they would always be like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So, I
That's
try
actually
to,
I always say that to myself too, Rory,
Yeah.
because everyone in the music industry wants to make it's like a race with everyone anyway.
I'm gonna get my big break. Well, it doesn't have to.
You know what I mean? And I'm just like, it's okay, it's fine, it's cool, let them all go, let them do their thing. Because I've got to do my own thing and I've got to find my way, but I'm learning all the time. I'm growing. And even when there's a negative, I can always turn that into a positive. It's actually
Well, there's also a lot of people that people maybe don't think of because the younger stars get more, maybe sometimes get more recognition, but there are a lot of people that didn't have careers take off till they were a bit older. And I think some of us people, as we start to get older, sort of wonder, like, well, did I miss my chance? Like, no, you didn't. It's different for everyone.
exactly. And every different horses, different courses, as we say.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a different course, everyone's got a different race, and we've all got different challenges and barriers, and none of us start on that same starting point. And I think this is one of the reasons I do this podcast, Rory, is to help other people understand some of the issues and barriers that they might not even understand that I face or you face or anyone else faces when access an industry, sorry, that is generally cis white males that are perfectly fine. So they don't have these barriers, they don't have the issues, they don't have, they have quite a lot of privilege and wealth, and they have,
Yeah.
and it can be really challenging and disheartening, like you said, when you can't get funding, you can't progress. But there's
Well, it's
always
a bit weird too that labels nowadays. I saw something the other day on like threads and stuff. It's like, well, we're looking to sign someone, but you got to have 50K followers minimum. It's like, well, at that point, you wouldn't really need anyone else probably because you're sustaining yourself.
we should be able to. Yeah. Well, I think this is part of the point as well. And people look at social media, and I know a lot of people that can buy followers. I would never do that myself. I want organic growth, and I don't need.
Yeah.
But a lot of people cheat on that as well. And I think a lot of the labels these days, they look at popularity rather than talent. And I think this is where some of the music industry has kind
Yeah.
of evolved around the social media aspect. But it means
They
that you
look
don't,
at the looks and
you
the
know,
branding. It's all the guys in suits that didn't, a lot of them didn't go to music school, they go to business school. And it's like, well,
yeah.
come on, man. It's the music is the main thing here.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also about talent and that expression and serving communities, because it is about serving, it's about helping others, but it's also about making sure that we have this community that we
And
can
it's
all,
about the artist. It's about the artist and their music and whether people relate, like finding people that enjoy it and relate to it and find some connection with it. It's not about um how they can be marketed. I think people focus too much on that
yes,
rather than organically letting it
let
happen
it,
and genuinely being excited about it and sharing it with people instead of paying to spread it to more
exactly,
people.
in a way that's not original or authentic, because that's also the case, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, I accept, that at times you're gonna have to pay your way, obviously, for promote, but like some people only do that. And it's kind of like, well, you gotta be genuine too sometimes and be organic, not necessarily genuine, but be organic and let things happen as they will.
Authenticity counts. I think it's about being yourself and just being who you are and not trying to be somebody else. I think is a really important key for everyone to take away from this. And time has flown by, Rory. We've got another 5 minutes. So before we leave, is there any way that the listeners can connect with you, find you on social media, listen to any of the work that you've done? I'm going to leave it in the description below anyway. Any ways they can contact you or connect with you or collaborate?
Yeah, I'm on all the major ones, Instagram is Rory McDonald one. And if you search on all the streaming services, I got an album out and I'm working on another, which will be out sooner than later, but I don't have any
Sure.
timeline for that. But if you search, Rory Awakened Alone, that's my debut album. And you know, rorysmusic.com is my website where you can find all that. It's sort of the central spot, I guess, where all my links are.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, and I'll make sure that again that the listeners can find you in the description below. And just before you do go, I'd just like to say, like, obviously being in the music industry, have you actually faced discrimination or stigma as well, like while you're here? Like, has there been any of those issues?
I haven't really it, for me, it's more people will compare me to, or, be
Yeah.
hung up on the fact that I'm blind, so my senses must be heightened, but it's more that I just have used my ear more and stuff. Yeah, I think for me, it's mainly the comparing to other blind artists, blind musicians, rather than um, getting past that. It's not getting past the blindness thing for me, I think is sort of it's more annoyance though than anything because I ultimately
Imagine.
don't try not to let it worry me too much, but it's kind of like,
Worry you. You just keep doing your thing and keep shining and being amazing because you absolutely are. And I just want to say again, thank you ever so much for coming along today, for sharing your story, your vision, your views, and your inspiration to the rest of the world. I'm sure so many listeners are going to be inspired by this. Thank you again.
yeah, thanks for having me, and it's good to talk with you.
Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah.